everybody, welcome to In the Kitchen with Cameron. So today I thought I'd make for you guys an old school classic, beef stroganoff. It was really popular in the 50s and 60s, sort of like a comfort food that a lot of people made. So I'm going to show you how to do it today. It's really easy. We don't need a lot of ingredients. We just need some steak, and you can use either sirloin steak, ribeye steak. If you really want to get fancy, you can use filet mignon, but today I'm just using sirloin steak, and we're going to slice that thin. Then we're going to take some mushrooms. I already pre-sliced those because they take a while. And you don't want to see me chopping mushrooms for 10 minutes. We're going to thinly slice one onion, and then we have some garlic, sour cream, some spices, and some beef broth. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to get started, and I'm just going to slice this onion. It's a medium onion, and I'm just going to put it and chop it into some thin slices. Oh, and I think I forgot to mention you need dill as well, because that's sort of what the signature flavor is for the beef stroganoff. So what I did, I just heated my pan up, and I'm going to put some clarified butter in there. And that's just butter without the milk fat in it. So if you use clarified butter, it's not going to burn. So you can see the pan is pretty hot. I'm going to throw my onions in there. Turn it up a little bit. You want it sort of a medium to medium high heat. I'm just going to stir these around just for a minute or so, just to kind of start them getting sweated out a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of, I like this organic no salt seasoning, so I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that in there, give it some flavor. And now you could use salt as well, but since I'm using beef broth and it's not the low sodium kind, it already is pretty salty. So I don't want to add too much salt in here. Okay, so now that you can see these are kind of starting to wilt a little bit, we are going to add the mushrooms. And you want the heat pretty high, because you want it to get a kind of a little bit of a browning to it, but you don't want to steam it. So while that's cooking, we have got to put a little bit of garlic in there. So I just peeled 3 cloves of garlic, and I have this little handy chopper here. It's really convenient. To me, it's actually even faster than using a knife. So you can buy these, I don't know, for like $10 on Amazon. Of course, I got this one for free. And you just put it over whatever you want to chop. And then you can see it's pretty chopped up. I'm gonna chop, and the great thing about this is you can decide how fine you like it by just chopping it a little bit more. That's good. Okay, so you can see my onions are starting to get a little bit brown now, which is what you want. I'm going to put my garlic in now. And you want to put it in at the end, because garlic has a tendency, I'm not going to put quite all that garlic in there, because I should have only probably put 2 cloves in there, so we're just going to put like 2. And just stir that for another minute until the garlic gets nice and fragrant. Okay, so this is looking great. So what I do now is I'm going to take this and put it in, I'm just going to set it to the side while we cook our steak. Oops, got a jumper there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do Turn this down a little bit while we're slicing. So now I'm going to take my steak and we are just going to thinly slice that across the grain. You want to try to slice it pretty thin. It doesn't have to be super thin, but this is one of those dishes that doesn't take a long time to cook. So the thinner it is, the faster it's going to cook. And like I said, this is just sirloin steak, but feel free to use any tender cut that you want. Okay. And I'm going to add a little bit more oil to the pan just so the meat, just so the meat doesn't stick. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so now we are going to put this in the pan. Oops. And just kind of, evenly put it in the pan so it's not too clumped together. A little zhuzh there. And you want this pan pretty hot for the steak because you do want it to get a nice brownness to it. I'm going to add a little bit of fresh pepper. Okay. That's going to give it more flavor. If we didn't sear it, it would just be kind of, it wouldn't be as tasty. Okay, it's coming along. I would just say another 30 seconds. Okay, I'm thinking this looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is add my mushrooms and onions back in with the meat. Just going to give that a little stir. Ah, it smells really good, you guys. Okay. And some of the juices have escaped from the meat, which is good because that's going to give it some nice flavor. And then what we're going to do is we are going to take some beef broth. Now you don't need to measure the beef broth because I'm honestly not even exactly sure how many cups I use. But what I do is I just pour it in there. And you just want it so it barely covers the meat and the vegetables. If I had to guess, I'd probably say it's 2 cups, but like I said, I never usually measure. I just pour it in there, and then when it's just barely touching the top, then you're good. And now what you're going to do is you are going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been cooking about 15 minutes. And it's gotten a little bit thicker, the liquid, and now it's time to add the best part, the sour cream. Now this is about 1 cup of sour cream, so we're just going to add it in here. And what you want to make sure is when you're adding it in, you don't want it to be too much of a boil when you're adding it in, because if you cook this on high, sometimes the sour cream can curdle, and we don't want that. So we are just going to stir this in gently. I know right now it doesn't look like it's gonna work, but once we keep stirring. And now what we're going to do is add our dill. I like to use about 2 teaspoons. But and you don't want to use too much because dill is one of those sort of strong herbs. But what I do is I just start with that, and then if I think it needs a little bit more at the end, I will just add that. But I think this looks good. And basically, you're just wanting the sour cream to get hot. And then it is pretty much done. And then what I like to do is serve it on top of some egg noodles. So these are just some, they're like homemade egg noodles, so they're a little bit thicker cut. But you can also just use regular egg noodles or rice or mashed potatoes or whatever you like. Okay, so now I'm just gonna scoop it on top of the noodles. And of course, gotta make sure you get sauce on there. Okay, and then we're just gonna garnish it with a little fresh parsley. Okay, and there you have it. Quick and easy beef stroganoff.